I'm so proud of you. You have the same conniving mind that made Scar so powerful.
This love between Zira and Scar might be more disgustingly toxic than you think. And in this video, I will tell you all about it. Trust me, I also didn't believe this at first. But not only that, this love story might not even be an actual love story. At first glance, Zira seems like Scar's most devoted follower, almost like his ride or die. But here's the real question. Was it actually love? Or was it something much darker, something far more toxic? Because let's be honest, Scar never acknowledges Zira in The Lion King. He never even mentions her. So was she really his mate, or was this all in her head? And if they were together, was Scar actually into her, or was there something else involved? There's something deeply disturbing about their connection. And today we're going to dig into the twisted truth behind it. Was it love, obsession, or something even more sinister? Let's find out. Zira's obsession with Scar wasn't just admiration, it was worship. She didn't just respect him as a leader, she practically deified him. From the way she speaks about him in The Lion King 2, Simba's pride, it's clear that she saw him as more than just a king. He was her everything. Think about how she talks to Kovu in My Lullaby. She sings about how Scar handpicked him to be the next king, treating it like some divine prophecy. She even raises her own son as a living tribute to Scar, molding him into the ruler she thinks Scar would have Did Scar actually care about Zira at all? Because if we go back to the first Lion King, Scar and Zira aren't actually buddies, not once. He talks to the hyenas, he manipulates Sarabi, and he even mocks Nala when she rejects him, but Zira, nowhere to be seen. That raises a huge question. Was Scar ever actually interested in her, or was this all in her head? It's totally possible that Scar saw Zira as just another follower, and yet despite never getting any clear validation from him, Zira's loyalty remains unshakable. Even after Scar's death, she dedicates her entire existence to avenging him, leading the outsiders in a war against Simba. But maybe to understand Zira, it all starts when Scar died. Scar's death didn't just break Zira, it completely unhinged her. It's one thing to mourn a fallen leader, but Zira took it to another level. She didn't just grieve, she became consumed by revenge, turning Scar's death into her entire personality. Losing Scar didn't make her question his rule or reflect on what went wrong. Instead, it radicalized her. She refused to accept that Scar's reign was over and became obsessed with keeping his so-called legacy alive. And by legacy, she didn't mean rebuilding what he left behind. She meant destroying Simba. She twisted her grief into a vendetta, convincing herself that the only way to honor Scar was by taking back the throne at any cost. And who did she put at the center of this mission? Kovu. From the moment he was born, she molded him into Scar's replacement. She brainwashed him into believing it was his destiny to avenge Scar, stripping him of any individuality and making him an extension of her own rage. It wasn't love, it was control. She didn't raise Kovu to be happy, strong, or even a leader in his own right. She raised him to serve Scar, even though Scar probably never cared about her or her family in the first place.
What is your destiny?
I will avenge Scar. Take his place in the Pride Lands.
Yes.
Which brings us to the real question. Was there ever any love in Zira's relationship with Scar? Did Scar ever see her as a partner? Or maybe this was a massive case of Stockholm Syndrome. I mean, it would make sense, right? I mean, like Scar, Zira was an outsider, but that's not all Zira was. If you take a closer look, you might find a rather shocking revelation. Let's break it down. I'm just going to come out and say it. Zira was not exactly a fangirl, she was a victim, and there's a strong argument to be made that she suffered from Stockholm Syndrome. Just for context, Stockholm Syndrome is when a victim develops a psychological bond with their captor or abuser, often as a survival mechanism. And if we take a closer look at Zira's devotion to Scar, it seems to fit the bill. First off, let's establish something. Scar never truly cared about anyone but himself. That much is obvious from the Lion King. He didn't have friends, he had followers, and even then he discarded them the second they were no longer useful. Just ask the hyenas. Yet Zira, an outsider like Scar, latched onto him with near religious loyalty. Why? Zira herself was an outcast, and that's key. We don't know much about her past, but given how fiercely she clung to Scar's memory in The Lion King 2, Simba's pride, it's safe to assume she wasn't well liked among the Pridelanders. Maybe she was always an outsider. Maybe Scar was the only one who ever gave her a sense of purpose. But let's not fool ourselves into thinking he was some kind of doting partner. Scar's personality doesn't allow for that. He likely kept her around because she was useful, but he wouldn't have hesitated to throw her aside if she ever questioned him. And yet Zira worshipped him. Even after his death, she raised her entire family, including Kovu, to avenge him. This isn't the behavior of someone who had a healthy relationship. It's the behavior of someone who had been manipulated, someone who was conditioned to believe that her abuser was the only one who truly mattered. Her entire life became about pleasing Scar, even long after he was gone. Think about it. Why else would she be so obsessed? Why else would she sacrifice her own children for his cause? It wasn't just about revenge, it was about Scar still controlling her, even from beyond the grave. That's how deep the psychological hold was. And the saddest part? Scar wouldn't have done the same for her. If the roles were reversed, if Zira had died and Scar lived, he wouldn't have led a rebellion in her name. He wouldn't have raised a cub to be her successor. He would have moved on because he didn't care about anyone but himself. But Zira? She lived and died for a lion who never loved her back. In the end, Zira wasn't just a villain. She was a victim who never got the chance to break free. And that's what makes her story one of the most tragic in the Lion King saga. But there's another thing worth mentioning that's even more concerning. This might be the most tragic theory of all. What if there was never anything between them? But Zira convinced herself there was. We know she was fanatically devoted to Scar, but there's no real evidence that he felt the same way. Maybe she wanted to believe they had something deeper, so she built up this imaginary love story in her mind. This would explain why she was so dedicated to avenging him. If Scar was just a leader she admired, she could have moved on and found another cause. But if she believed she was his chosen queen, that would make his death feel personal, like a betrayal by the universe that she had to set right. So was there any love at all? For Zira, absolutely. Though it was more of a twisted, obsessive loyalty than a healthy, mutual relationship. Scar and Zira's connection, if you can even call it that, reveals something much darker than just a simple love story. It's not about romance. It's about power. Scar, the cunning and ruthless ruler, inspired unwavering devotion from Zira, who clung to his ideology so tightly that it consumed her. This wasn't love. It was obsession. And in that obsession, we see the dangers of blind loyalty. Zira dedicated her entire existence to a lion who, in all likelihood, didn't love her back. didn't plan for her future, and may not have even cared about her survival. She gave up everything, her pride, her children, and eventually her life, for a vision of Scar that may not have even been real. Her devotion wasn't just misguided, it was self-destructive. Scar, on the other hand, serves as a warning about the dangers of unchecked ambition. He inspired loyalty, but only from those he could manipulate, and once he was gone, all that loyalty led to nothing but ruin. For years, fans have debated what really happened between Scar and Zira. Was she his queen, a devoted follower, a delusional fanatic? Whatever the case, their dynamic was anything but healthy. So, what do you think? Should we stop romanticizing their connection and see it for what it truly was? A tragic tale of manipulation, obsession, and misplaced faith? Or is there more to their story that we haven't considered? Let's talk about it in the comments.